And I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Thank you all for joining me today. It's going to be a very entertaining show, a very informative show. We've got a lot of things to talk about that's happening right here in Coos County. But first off, I want to give a warm thank you to everyone out there who made last week's event so successful. And I'm including everyone. We're all Americans. We're all Americans. All of us live in Coos County. We all share this. Most of all, we all share pretty much the same values, even people we disagree with. When it comes down to it, we all probably agree on more things than we disagree with. It's just all those fine-tuned things that we just, have differences on. And last week was in a phenomenal week. We had a Patriot dinner on Wednesday, went great. We had the Egyptian theater event, the American Values Tour. And then we had a concert on Friday, which was fabulous. That guy in the concert, Brandon Hart, excellent job. Excellent musician. I'm going to talk to the fair board. I'm going to try to bring him out during the fair. But that's something we'll save for another time. We're going to be talking to Commissioner Rod Taylor about a couple of different issues that are going to be coming up. And you're going to want to hear about this because this is probably going to affect you. And I think it's going to be pretty darn important. Joining me right now is Rod Taylor. Rod, how you doing, man?
Good afternoon, Rob. I'm doing very well. You look like you're doing pretty fine yourself.
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling good. I got a lot of rest this weekend. It was a long week.
It sure was, and I felt that. Both my wife and I both felt that. And we weren't doing even a quarter of what you had going on. So I can definitely believe that you probably slept very well on Saturday.
Yeah. I slept in late on Saturday, and Sunday was pretty easy too. And I heard your grandkids over there. My grandkids, your kid lives behind me, and we'll hear your grandkids behind us every now and then. And I got a grandkid who lives next door, and she was at our house all weekend long. And they're like a bundle of energy. Did you have the kids this weekend?
Yeah, we did. That was why we didn't come to the dance on Friday night. We had the boys, and we did just little stuff like feeding them some nice ribeyes, grilled on the barbecue, and went for some quad rides, and then we went and hauled a bunch of redwood lumber that we had, and it was a good time with them. Yep.
That's what I've learned is I try to get the kids out and active as much as you can, because by 8 o'clock I'm ready to go to bed and they're still running around. And it's like, please go to sleep.
Right. Well, thank God there's two of us, right?
Yeah.
I know at one point I fell asleep for a little bit on the couch, and Nicole's still there taking good care of them, and so it's good to share the burden.
Yes.
Not that it's a burden, but share the load.
Share the load, share the load. And I give our kids kudos because it just seems like it was so much easier when we were in our 20s and 30s. Boy,
Mhm.
raising kids seemed like it was so much easier than it
I
is
know.
now. I just
Yeah. Yeah. I find the same thing. Absolutely agree with you. I'm glad we're not doing it now.
good deal. Um, you are going to be, the commission is going to be meeting on Wednesday instead of Tuesday this week.
Mhm.
And you have just recently, I saw an interview in the, of all places, Oregon Public Broadcast talking about the Oregon ONC lands and how you now have been bumped up to the 75% original share that you were supposed to get. Would you tell everybody about that and how that's affecting our county?
Yeah, let's start with the really salient part first. In the appropriations bill that Congress passed, it's the fiscal year 26 appropriations bill that they just passed a couple of weeks ago. We are we now have a congressional recommitment to the original funds distribution terms of the 1937 ONC Act. In the act, there are a number of provisions. One of them is that the ONC counties, which are represented by the Association of ONC Counties, the AOCC for short. The ONC counties originally were scheduled to receive 75% of the profit net revenues from the harvest activities on the 2.1 million ONC Act or ONC acre lands, 2.1 million acres of ONC lands. That's what I meant to say. And, and that went really well for a long time. Coos County was the beneficiary of really a very high level of payout because we have a lot of those ONC lands in Coos County. And that's not the only part of the payout formula, but having a lot of the lands does make a big impact on our revenue. And so Coos County was very wealthy in the 50s, 60s, 70s. There was plenty of money here to go around. And consequently, county services expanded because we had the ability to pay for it. Um, the roads were in great shape because it was all derived from fuel tax like it is now. Uh, there were numerous other ways that the county just provided a very high level of service to people. And then we had uh, we had well the really the downfall. Well, let's see. In the late 70s, early 80s, the distribution formula was revised from 75% to 50%. And so that had an impact. In the meantime, um, the harvest levels had begun to shrink a little bit, and then along came the spotted owl, and which was actually a complete scam.
Yeah.
Entire spotted owl issue was nothing but a disguised mechanism to shut down logging in the Northwest. That's what it was about. Um, and so that really curtailed harvest activities on the ONC lands. And so not only had we seen a cut in the distribution formula from 75 to 50, then we also saw a curtailment of the harvest activities. And then came along measures 5 and 50, which limited counties in terms of the growth of their property assessments, property value assessments for the purpose of taxation. Well, the problem is that Coos County had established this track based on the profitability and the revenues that we receive from the ONC lands, and therefore our there was no need to have a very high permanent tax rate. The county's
Right.
permanent tax rate is $1.08 per $1,000 of assessed value. Today, that nets to the county about $7 million a year that the county uses for general fund operations. The rest of the taxes that we all pay on our property tax bills all go to the special districts, go to the schools, go to the fire districts, go to the ambulance districts, we have about 75 special tax districts in Coos County. And that's where most of that money goes. So the county receives just a small portion of that, and it cannot rise at a rate more than 3% per year, and that's
Right.
just on properties that get reassessed. So, and I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for a high property tax rate. I'm just saying that that is the reality that we're faced with. So, over the years since the spotted owl debacle, we've also now seen other species come to the fore that negatively impact timber harvests, such as the marbled murrelet, and there are some others. And so these factors have all combined to really crush the Coos County fiscally, and it affects other counties as well, of course, but most of them, actually 34 of the 36 counties in Oregon have a higher permanent rate than Coos County does. We didn't need it. We were satisfied and fat and sassy with our
Yep.
C revenues. So this really speaks to the major problem that we have in Coos County fiscally, and this is despite back in the heyday there were 550 employees. Even around the turn of the century, there were still 550 employees in Coos County. Today we have fewer than 350. So the cuts have been steady, consistent, and deep in Coos County operations, and we're continuing to run, just not as smoothly as we used to, right? So this correction of the distribution formula from 50% back up to the 75% that was dictated in the 1937 ONC Act is really
Mhm.
significant. It's going to really redound to a bump from last year's revenue was about 1.6 million from ONC, and just by contrast, 30 years ago, we received $25 million a year. Okay. So from 25 million to 1.6 to augment the general fund is obviously a huge drop.
That's huge. That is huge. That's a lot of damn money to go without. That's who can take a $20 million cut,
Well, I mean, obviously the people of Coos County have done it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's we don't have any choice. Reality bites, and as Uncle Bill used to say, it is what it is. Well, we've done the best we can with it, and obviously, when I was running for this seat, I didn't understand a lot of these nuances about county finance and the budget and where the difficulties really came from. So anyway, to see this news in the fiscal year 26 appropriations bill, and the subsequent 50% increase we're going to see in our actual revenues
Yeah.
is huge. It's a great encouragement. The one downside that I have to mention, I'd be remiss not to, is that it's not actually going to come quickly enough, I don't think, to make much of an impact on this fiscal year's budget.
Yeah.
That kind of remains to be seen. I'm a little bit hopeful, but also a little dubious. I wish that this would have happened a year ago, right? But that just couldn't be. So it is what it is once again, and we'll roll with what we have to roll with. I do fear that we're going to have to engage some additional cuts this year. And, I frankly don't know where we can cut from,
Right.
um, save one grim alternative. But, we'll see when we get there. I just recently released a statement as to what our preliminary budget schedule is, and I'll look at it right here. We're going to be starting our first budget work sessions on March 9th. So, March 9th is our first budget run. And then, oh, wait, hold on. No. I don't have that right. It's actually, yeah, that's right. First round, first phase is starts on March 9th, and that starts at 9 a.m. in the morning. And the schedule is from 9 to 4. We may not go to 4 every day, and we may not use every day that week of March 9th. Usually we get it wrapped up on Thursday. And that first phase is just the county commissioners, with the department heads coming in one by one, presenting their budget. And we go through and we look for, what can we do without, what do we absolutely need. And at the end of that, then the finance director, who is also our treasurer, Megan Sims, who, by the way, does an excellent job in her role, she comes out with a number that we need to cut in order to meet our revenues and come away with a balanced budget. We can't borrow money like the federal government can.
You can't print your own. You don't have a printing machine like the feds.
Right. Wouldn't that be something? So, and then, so that first session, that first phase is just the commissioners. And then the department heads have 2 weeks after that to go back and revise their budgetary analysis and their asks. And then they come back on March 30th, on that Monday, before the entire budget committee. And that consists of us 3 commissioners, along with 3 lay members of the community, who will walk through the entire budget with us a second time. And that's what gets ratified and passed at its conclusion. So
when I tell people are always asking what are the important meetings, and I always tell them the budget committee meetings. Especially if you're going to run for a position, the budget's the most important thing. That's your engine right there. And
That's right.
A lot of people, I don't know how many people, if all the candidates who are running, there's 4 candidates running right now, and one of them is on the budget committee. Gosh, his name slips me right now. Osborne, I think it is.
Yeah, it's Rick Osborne.
Rick Osborne. Okay. And so he's right. He's on the budget committee. That gives him an advantage over his opponent right away.
Yes, it does. It gives him great insight into the operation of the county. And I think the primary advantage that grants to a candidate who's running for commissioner is that they can avoid a lot of verbal missteps.
Yeah.
Right. They know what they can and can't say, or what they can and can't promise about what they'll be able to do. I mean, at least they have some idea. There are other areas that they may not be as familiar with, but certainly the budget they understand. And and one thing that I learned campaigning and then assuming the seat after I was elected was that there were a lot of things that I thought I could do that I didn't realize what all of the limitations were in this position. And so, I said a lot of things campaigning that I really shouldn't have said because I didn't know. So yeah, you're right. Attending budget meetings is really important for candidates, but also for regular citizens. That's why I put it out so early. We get a fair amount of complaints from people. Well, I didn't know, you didn't advertise it. I can't take time off work. Well, I understand that there are time pressures for people taking time off work. There's money pressures that come as a result of that. Not everybody can do it. But the more notice you have, the easier it is. And so I wanted to get it out there right away.
Can you live stream it? Chris is asking that, Chris Castleman.
Yes, I believe that we can live stream the budget. I don't see any reason that we cannot. In fact, it was Chris's comment in a prior hearing that prompted us to go ahead and alter some of our live streaming mechanism so that we didn't necessarily have to have county IT staff here in order to conduct the live stream. We can just set it up and run it on some of the more minor work sessions and things like that. And it uses a meeting owl, actually a pair of meeting owls that we have on the dais now. And so I think that we will be live streaming that. Yes.
That would be great. That would be great because, like you said, not all of us can make those meetings, and there's some long, drawn-out meetings. Usually, those budget sessions can go quite a few hours. I mean, almost all day. I've been to an all-day budget meeting before.
Yep. They're scheduled from 9 to 4, and sometimes they do stretch up to 4. It's true. Yep.
But you learn everything that you never wanted to know about the county. You'll learn during the budget session. And people will be blown away. I've had people walk away from those budget sessions completely had their mind changed because they didn't realize the practicality of what the limits are in the budget of the economy and stuff. And so, that was an important thing. I want to get back to the ONC lands as far as logging. Are they increasing the percentage of logging? How are they actually cutting down trees? I guess I should ask on the ONC lands because we got a new president. He doesn't mind to cut down trees. Are we doing it now?
Yeah, the president issued 2 executive orders relevant to timber production, both of them oriented toward directing the agencies being the departments being the Interior Department and the USDA, which runs the Forest Service. Interior runs BLM. Those are the 2 agencies that manage the timberlands in the U.S. And his directives have been to increase the timber harvest. I forget exactly what the amount was that he specified, but so
it was an increase.
Yeah, significant increase. And so we are looking at that. That's really what buttresses our good news of the Appropriations Act fix to the distribution formula. We're going to see not only an increase in the percentage that we get, but the harvest levels will be going up as well. Wow. Now, they're not going up as they should. Okay. What we've seen, well, the ONC Act in 1937, they didn't know how much timber those 2.1 million acres would produce.
Right.
Okay. And so they specified a minimum harvest level as 500 million board feet annually until they could establish what the reproduction rate was. In the subsequent years, it was determined that those lands grow 1.2 billion board feet annually. Every single year, you get 1.2 billion more board feet on that land than you had the year before. So the bad news is that the harvest was never adjusted up to that. It was never operated at sustainable yield. And so the lands have amassed I don't even know what the number is of what the inventory is on those lands right now, Rob.
Right.
But it is immense. It's immense. I mean, you could basically figure, maybe a 60-year effective harvest window cycle between trees being harvestable and trees dying on the back end. Okay. Yeah. So if you took 60 years times 1.2 billion, what is that? That's like 80 billion board feet of inventory.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and that's harvestable inventory. Right. So, it's to harvest all of that is insurmountable. Not that we even need to or want to, right? But timber that is not harvested in the species that are grown on those lands, it ages out, it dies, it falls, it becomes fire fuel. And when you don't properly manage those lands, then you've got an amassed of fire fuel that puts the entire inventory, that 80 whatever billion board feet of inventory at tremendous risk. And so I forget where we were going with that, but anyway, oh, I know. The ONC Act specifies 500 million board feet annually minimum
Yeah.
until sustainable yield is determined. The reality is that the BLM and the Forest Service have been actually harvesting with a combined total of around like 220 million board feet. So less than half of what was actually specified as the bare minimum.
Yeah, that's a little anemic there.
Yeah. Yeah. So to see this improvement in the distribution formula, or the correction to the distribution formula, and then followed maybe the following year or two by realizations of the increase in harvest due to the president's executive orders, is going to be kind of the double boost. So I'm anticipating that 2 to 3 years from now, we might see that 1.6 million that we received actually grow to something more like 3 million.
Yeah.
Now, if that's enough for us to actually, we could have kept that second pod of the jail open with that, and we certainly could preserve high levels of sheriff's patrol. And unfortunately, most of the services that the county provides are statutorily mandated. We don't have the option of not providing services like the county clerk and the assessor and the surveyor and so many others. And then other departments are just operationally necessary, like maintenance. We can't run the county without a maintenance department to take care of the physical plant. And so many of these departments are again, statutorily mandated. We're statutorily mandated to have a jail, but it doesn't specify how many jail beds we have to have.
Right.
And there is no mandate that we must have sheriff's patrol. We must have a sheriff, but we don't have to have sheriff's patrol. Now, any of those statutory services that we must provide, if the county fails to provide those, the state will step in and provide those services. They will do the job. The problem is they won't do it for free.
Right. They will charge, from what I understand, they can actually taxes.
They can. And believe me, they will.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but I guarantee you that the state is not going to be able to come in and provide those services at a cost that's lower than what the county does it for, because this county is efficient. That's one thing that I have learned is there is really not any slop in Coos County.
Well, if we gave them them an opportunity, it wouldn't be an opportunity for us. But if the state government comes in here, just the sheer fact we're a red county, they're going to punish us. And you know what that means. They're going to do everything at top dollar value.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point that you make, and that is a fear.
Ashley Hicks, she says, how many nonprofit organizations own properties getting property tax exemptions in Coos County? I bet if those properties paid property tax, the heavy burden wouldn't be passed on to the residents. And that's something I've been saying for a long time, is that you will have someone who owns a property, can rent it out to a nonprofit, and I think they only have to pay 8%, or is it 12%? I forget. It's a very low percentage of their actual property taxes. And we see that happening more and more often, where you get nonprofits coming in. And if I was a property owner, boy, I'd take advantage of that. Do you know how many nonprofit organizations? Do you know the dollar amount? Is there anyone figuring that out? Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that is, okay. I'm seeing the comment here. I'm not really sure that that's an accurate picture of things. Um, I know that one of the things we were excited about in, okay, let me back up. Last 2 years ago, the Bob Baloney Ranch operation went bankrupt and folded.
Right.
There were two pieces of land that the county had turned over to the Baloney Ranch operation. One on Highway 101, just at the bottom of the hill there south of the stables, and the other one up off of Shingle House Road on Carl Lane. And we were excited. Well, when they folded, those properties reverted by contract back to the county.
Right.
And so we put them up for sale, and this is quite a process, but we ended up selling both of those parcels. In fact, they've both closed just within the last 2 months. And one of the excitements about that is returning those properties to the tax rolls. Now, one of them went to private, the other one went to a nonprofit. So I'm not sure that nonprofit proposal that you posit is correct.
I'll have to check out, because that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've heard that they do get a huge cut on their property taxes. I'll have to
Yeah.
ask the assessor. I haven't met
Well,
the new assessor. I need to go talk to him.
yeah, Jason Corbus is a good guy, and he's been working in that department for some number of years, and yeah, he's definitely got his values in the right place, and is doing a good job as assessor, from all of my observations. But yeah, he would be the one to ask, and then secondarily would be Megan Sims.
Yeah, definitely, Megan. Ashley Hicks, she made a comment of going back to the budget committee. She said, "I served 6 years on City of Roseburg Budget Committee, 4 years as an elected council member, and for 2 years before being elected." And that's one of the things that we were talking about. If you really want to know the position that you're applying for, go sit on the budget committee of any board or council that you're going to be wanting to be a part of. Chris is going to join us in a minute, but we might as well head over to this conversation because we're going to have it. We just did the Turning Point event, Rod, and it was so weird that we got so much heat for it. It was to the point where, I thought it was just way overblown how much the theater, Jill, she got death threats. The theater was vandalized. What was your assessment of that?
Well, I just sent off that question to see if we can get an answer before we get off.
You got it.
Well, my analysis is that the TPUSA event, first of all, was a resounding success. I was just thrilled with the number of tickets sold. I can't recall actually having seen the Egyptian as full as it was.
Yeah.
And particularly for an event of that type, it was a great collection of speakers. I did think that it got a little weak at the end from the speaking microphone, but that's a separate issue.
Right.
but the turnout was phenomenal. And it was very encouraging to see, from my perspective as a Christian, to hear the gospel preached so clearly and succinctly was very refreshing, especially from such a young man. The energy was good.
Yeah.
I think, from the outside, honestly, to see the predictions of 1,000 violent protesters, pumped. This notion was pumped up by somebody who is obviously should not have any stature in our community based on his historical proclivities, shall we say.
Right.
His documented proclivities. It was unfortunate to see the Coos County Sheriff's Department, and particularly the city of Coos Bay, the city of Bandon, expended a lot of resources to come in and keep the peace in a situation where, obviously such a heavy presence wasn't even required, based on the reality that there were only about 100 or 120 of those protesters. The stories of buses of protesters coming from Eugene were completely untrue. And as we saw on Friday night, obviously, if they had come, maybe it would have gotten violent. They sure did in Eugene, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
So we don't want those people here. We have a peaceful county, and we want to keep it that way. And I support those 120 people who were down there in the plaza. They have every right to be there. I don't fault them for that. I appreciate that they didn't harass our people. We don't go and harass their events either. And so, I hope that we can keep protest peaceful in that way. So, but it was a great success, and kudos to you and to Chris Castleman, and to see, if I start naming people, I'm going to miss somebody, but there were so many that contributed to make that event as successful as it was. It was a great encouragement.
I think of the ancillary amount of people who had to help. We probably had a group of about 60 overall who had their fingers in the pie, but it was a group of about 18 committee members, and about 5 or 6 people driving maybe more than that, about 8 or 9 people driving the actual committee. It was a lot of work, and boy, these people did a really incredible job of putting this stuff together. That the Red Line, I hadn't been there in years, and that sure was a beautiful room that night. They did an incredible job, didn't they?
They did. I had never been in that room. In fact, to be honest, I'd never been in the Red Lion at all, ever.
No kidding.
Yeah. So my first entry in there was to see the room all set up with the tables and the flower arrangements and the coffee urns. I know you paid particular attention to those, Rob. And I must say that we drink your coffee every morning, Nicole and I do. But after that event, I went home and I turned up the volume on the coffee grinder. I said, we're going to make it stronger, because that was amazing. I couldn't believe how good that was. Anyway, so it was a great venue, a wonderful room, and just about the right number of people. You could probably fit a few more in there comfortably, but it was really nice, and such a great gathering of people. And the speakers that you guys lined up were phenomenal, present company excluded. That's me, not you.
You did a great job. I don't know what you're talking about. And we're going to talk about what you just talked about at that event. So you did a great job.
Yeah, good. Well, and it was funny because I didn't actually know that you were going to ask me to speak. So I was grateful to have such a salient and current topic to speak about, even though it wasn't a happy one, but it was important. And so it was a great opportunity.
I was supposed to have Mo Bannon at that dinner, and lining up two events is just one event is hard enough to get a national speaker out here, but to do two events,
Yeah.
and then we had the storm hit in the East Coast, and it was nuts trying to get her out here. And
Yeah.
yeah, she missed the dinner, so we had to make up a little bit of time. So it was all right. It turned out to be okay. But the thing you talked about, and I'm going to put this on screen here, is that it's not a phase prom. And when I first saw this, I thought, I really don't care. And then you read the details, and the details is I was reading this, and it's a all ages prom. It's a prom that's encouraging kids to drink mocktails. Those are fake cocktails. And from what I understand, they're going to have drag performers at this all ages event. That's when I got a huge problem. But then I found out that Coos Health and Wellness was one of the partners promoting this event. Tell us when you found out about this and how it happened.
Yeah. So every week I receive expenditure reports that require my authorization before the checks can go out on Friday. And then 1 week a month, I get two of those because it's a separate one for all the credit cards that are used in the county. So these are very voluminous reports that I go through, and I really, it's a load to go through them. It really is. But I try to diligently look at every line as best I can. And I never had seen anything like this. My wife and I were going to an ice cream store the other day, about a week and a half ago. And I saw this poster in the window, and it caught my attention. And like you, I was like, okay, I don't support this idea. I think that it's not healthy. And I think that there's a preponderance of psychological manipulation that goes into the whole, particularly the gender aspect of this movement. I don't judge or castigate people who happen to be homosexual or lesbian. I've had friends and still do have friends who ascribe to that lifestyle, and while I don't support it, I don't judge them as people for it. However, when you get to the business of actual gender transformation and gender confusion, there is a long established historical precedent for this. And some will call me radical or crazy or whatever, but This is actually a spiritual dynamic. And there actually is many centuries ago, an identified entity who advances that particular cause, and the name of that entity is Baphomet.
Baphomet, yes.
Yeah, and Baphomet is the small g god of transgenderism. And it's a reality, and people can argue, but it's historically documented for a long time. Anyway, so for that reason, I have grave concerns about the transgender movement, and when I see, case after case after case of people who have been talked into transitioning as teenagers.
Yeah.
And then they have to go and they detransition later in life, but they've lost something. They've had something stolen from them that they can never get back. And that's the ability to function as God designed them to function physically and sexually. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And if an adult wants to make that kind of a decision, then okay, they have the freedom to do that, but this should never be offered, let alone encouraged to minors. Anyway,
No,
so
well,
yeah.
let's that's a very valid point. Before you move on, I think that's something that psychologists will tell you as well, that children under the age of 12, especially before they reach the age of puberty and then the age of adolescence, their sex is in the back of their mind. It's not in the forefront of their mind. And as long as you keep it there and you're not exposing them to sexual content, sexual actions, activities, that stays in the back of their mind. You go camping, you're doing wholesome things. You go to church, you're doing wholesome things. You go in Boy Scouts, you're doing wholesome things. You're playing sports, but you keep that in the back of your mind because kids are innocent. This is part of being innocent. They don't know. But you go to an all ages drag show, and there is an element of sexuality to this. You're taking that from the backstage, something that's not even on the radar in a young kid, and you're putting it into the forefront of their brain that they're now going to be thinking about. Now it's going to be registering on them. Now they're going to be curious, and they're going to be exposed to extreme sexualities instead of normal, what I would call normal sexualities. Whether you're religious or not, biologically, it takes a man and a woman to have a baby. I know people say it takes a village to raise a kid. No, I say it takes a mom and a dad. And that's the problem today, is that some of the villagers, well, they're queer, they're gay gender, or they're trans, and I don't want my kids exposed to them, even though they might be very nice villagers. So that's my problem with that.
Yeah. Sorry, just following up on this other question from earlier and getting some more details. Yeah, so I completely agree with that. And again, I just really want to strongly reiterate the point that I do not and will not ever make the argument that consenting adults don't have the right to to live their lives as they wish, as long as they're not harming other people and remaining within the constraints of the law. So anyway, I saw this flyer on the window, and I walked over and I kind of looked at it, and then I noticed down in that bottom left corner, Coos Health and Wellness. Special thanks to our featured partners. And I thought, wow, that's really something. I don't recall having seen that on an expense report, but I don't think that we as a county, any department within the county, should be sponsoring an event like this, or any other event that focuses on a specific community like that. I mean, I don't think that the county should be augmenting funding for a prom at any school, or a Christian school. I mean, shouldn't be doing that. That's not a role. That's not a valid role of government, right?
Right.
So I thought, wow, what did I miss? So I came back to the office the next day and I started pouring through expense reports from the last 3 months. And believe me, that was kind of arduous, until I realized, oh, maybe I could use AI for this. And so I did that, and submitted several months worth of reports, and there was nothing. So then I shot off an email. Now, as a commissioner, I'm only one of 3. Okay, so I can't just dictate what happens. I need to have the other 2 along, or at least one of the other 2 along with me, if we're going to render a policy decision like that. But I issued a demand to the director of Coos Health and Wellness that this must be distanced. We can't do this. This is not in the interest of the bulk of the population of this county. And the predictable response I anticipated was, well, Commissioner Taylor, thank you. We can't really do that. That has to be discussed in a board meeting. Well, I had already started creating the agenda item to put it on our next board meeting, which is in fact the day after tomorrow. which is Wednesday the 4th. At the meeting starts at 9:30. This is the last item on our agenda, but the other items I don't anticipate to take too terribly long. So we might get into this by 10 a.m. or maybe 10:30. It's always hard to tell exactly when we're going to come around to something, but we are going to have a robust discussion, and based on emails that I've been receiving, and yeah, based on the emails that I've seen and comments I've gotten, I anticipate a pretty full house here. Yeah.
And it's on Wednesday, unlike your usual Tuesday. And by the way, everyone, Chris Castleman has joined us. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. Hey, Rob.
Nice to see you, Chris.
It is good
How's
to
it
see
going?
you. Steve Nye.
Chris, I think my beard is longer than yours these days now, finally.
It is. Let's not get into comparing, though.
I'll break out the
We got to
measuring
get Rob to
stick.
catch up.
Yeah, no. I enjoy being able to go out without having my meal still left in my face. I'm a bad
I must say,
eater.
Chris, it is looking mighty fine, though. You've inspired me. So.
Oh, there you go. It needs a trim.
So Steve Nye says, Rod, I recognize good working relationships between commissioners. Drew Farmer made a statement today that he will not support backing out of the sponsorship of this event. I like Drew and think he's doing a good job. How are you going to navigate that with him? And do you want to comment before the meeting on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve, and I appreciate your point. And like you, I also like Drew. I think that Drew is doing a good job as a commissioner, and better than I anticipated, honestly. So I've been very pleased about that. Drew and I don't agree on everything. Okay, we agree on many things, particularly where it pertains to the operations of the county. Drew is fairly fiscally conservative, and I appreciate that about him. And we get along just fine. I think we're not going to agree on this topic, and the things that we don't agree about, we have the capability to disagree agreeably, and that. Thank you, Uncle Bill. It is what it is. We're so be it. If we disagree, we do. Then the pivot point is going to be John Sweet, because I think everybody understands where I'm going to come down on the issue.
Yeah.
And unless there's some God bestowed revelation that I'm in the wrong, I don't anticipate that. But I'm never going to be dogmatic that I'm always right, because I'm not, right? But
right.
So just in the interest of proper humility, I have to maintain that position. But I don't anticipate changing my position, and so it'll come down to Commissioner Sweet and what he thinks is the appropriate course of action for Coos County as a public entity, and what the actual will of the majority of voters, our constituents in this county, are. And I think it's going to be a pretty long pull to convince us all that in a county that has the conservative family values that primarily we do have in this county, witness a 58% Donald Trump vote 3 times in a row. I don't think these are the values that we want to support with our taxpayer funds. So
no, not at all. We'll talk about this in a minute, but here was my problem with this and I go back to this all ages thing. Here you could have this other, I don't know where this was posted out, but it does relate to the same Pride prom all ages pride prom, and then they talk about a drag show. And I don't think anyone would have a problem with this if one, the Coos Health and Wellness had anything to do with it. I don't care whether it's all ages or not. I don't think the county should have anything to do with proms or drag shows. But the all ages, they either need to make it 21 or under, or they need to make it 18 or over. And if they make it 18 or over, I don't care if they do the drag show. But 21 or under or 18 and under, no drag show. That shouldn't be allowed. That should be illegal by law. I don't know why it isn't.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's real clear.
Chris, you had some interesting insight on this, that they're not being very inclusive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you got to step back from all the fact that it's the LGBTQ plus agenda and think of like, well, what's the criteria for Coos Health and Wellness to sponsor mocktails? Because that's what they're doing. They're sponsoring mocktails at this drink or at the prom, and they're trying to claim that they're not really like sponsoring it. It's not like they gave money. They're just donating drinks.
Yeah.
And like the first question would be like, why is Coos Health and Wellness donating drinks to anything or anywhere? Like, is that part of their mandate from the state? Is that part of their mission? I think Ashley Hicks mentioned earlier mission drift. That's a really cool phrase, and it pertains exactly to this. Like, it doesn't make sense. And then, okay, let's say you want to make it make sense somehow. What's the criteria? So is it any event for youth, and it's some initiative to do any initiative to do with like reducing drinking at events for youth? Okay, well then, if it's any event with youth, could we have a turning point prom? So Rob just put up this graphic. What if it was this? What if this went out prior to this other prom? If we were also planning this with all those other turning point events, imagine if this went out and Coos Health and Wellness was sponsoring free mocktails at a turning point prom. People would lose their mind on the other end. And that's the point. That right there is the point. It's not appropriate for them, and this is irregardless of content. Really, you just shouldn't be like, people should have the mind to know, like commissioners like Drew Farmer should know, hey, this is inappropriate because it's very controversial. Like he knows it's controversial. He's not a dumb person, and he's doing it anyway. And this is exactly what he did with the flag policy in Coos Bay. It's why people did not want him to get elected, because he does stuff like this occasionally. Like Rod mentioned, oh, he's a great guy. Steve mentioned, oh, he's a great guy. He's doing a good job. Okay, that might be true, but he occasionally does this really weird stuff where he'll support something like this that doesn't make sense. The city of Coos Bay, you challenged him, Rob, on that. You were like, well, if you're going to fly a gay pride flag, can we fly the Christian flag? Can we fly the Gadsden flag? And they didn't want to. And because they were going to get sued for choosing one flag over the other, they had to drop all of it. So like, Drew, and you dropped it. You said not because you thought that it was the right thing to do, because you just didn't want the city to have to go through that legal process. Right. Well, guess what? The county is even more bankrupt than the city. So do you want the county to go through that legal process? Like, what's the point? What are we solving, Drew and Mike Rowley at Coos Health and Wellness? What are we solving by creating issues like this? And really, like, the committee that put on that prom can't find their own way to get drinks. They can't do their own mocktails. I mean, are they that strapped for cash that they had to get Coos Health and Wellness to support them? No, are they going to have candy cigarettes? Are they going to have phony syringes for the fentanyl? And you know what I mean? They'll squirt it in their mouth or their eyes instead. I mean, are they going to crush up sweet tarts and snort them? You know, I mean, how far are we going to go with this? Mock cocaine. It just, there's really not much of this that makes sense. I appreciate Rod for bringing this to everybody's attention. And really, My advice to people who are upset about this is to drop attacking it from the like gay perspective,
Right.
the LGBTQ or transgender perspective, because it actually, you can win the argument without any of that. It's
Yep.
really about
Mhm.
inappropriate use of money for, like, it's a private event. If they want to do that, I mean, I don't think the all ages thing makes sense. It's really weird to have any sort of prom with 14-year-olds and 40-year-olds dancing. I mean, if you went to your
Yep.
high school prom and your 40-year-old teacher was dancing with the kids, it would be inappropriate. Like, they'd
That's right.
probably get in some trouble for that. So why are we doing it privately? But whatever, it's a private event. People, I mean, people want to take their kids to it, allow them to
Well,
go. I
okay,
don't know,
Chris.
but it's a
Chris,
private
you're a
event.
soon-to-be father, and you're really going to be in the midst of this. You know what I mean? I don't know if you plan to homeschool your kid or put him into regular school or what, but if, let's say, if Rod all of a sudden wanted to do this all ages Turning Point prom, and he somehow convinced Mike Riley that we should do this Turning Point prom and do mocktails, and they supported it. I know myself. I know I would be down there to say, Rod, what are you doing? I don't want to pay for Turning Point's prom. I'd be just as ticked off about this based on the same argument that I'm against giving money to the LGBTQ prom, the phase prom.
Mhm.
What would you do if Rod was pushing this with Coos Health and Wellness?
I'd do what I do with all the other bad ideas that come across me. I'd say, dude, that's a really weird idea. You know, like if Rod was in the planning meeting we had a couple weeks ago and he said, hey, I got Coos Health and Wellness, by the way, they're going to sponsor mocktails at the Egyptian Theater. I'd go, no, 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 no. That doesn't, it's just asking for trouble. It doesn't make sense. The only time someone would say, hey, yeah, let's do that is if they have an agenda. If they wanted the impression to be given to the public that this is something the full public supports, that Coos Health and Wellness, a government agency, supports, if they wanted to give that impression, then that's why they would want this to happen. And I believe that is why Drew is okay with this. I believe he's also probably a little worried that if he comes out against it, then he'll take a lot of slack from his constituents, specifically the Democrat Party, who financed part of his campaign. Also, you know, I don't know if he's still LGBTQ in that community or whatever. He's an ally now. I don't know, but he was part of that community, and I think he would feel threatened by them if he came out and make a decision like that. But you know what? That's what happens when you have courage. You know, you stick to certain principles and you come out even when it feels uncomfortable and it might hurt a little bit. You still do the right thing.
Right.
I don't know. It just this is not a proper use of government money. It's like end of, like, full stop. Doesn't make any sense.
And to go back to, and I agree with you, I don't want to make this about the LGBTQ because I would support this prom, like I said, if there were several caveats, because I think it's kind of sad for gay kids. I know when we used to go to school, if they would have showed up, you know, if two guys or two girls would have showed up together and were kissing at the prom, it would have been very awkward, and probably kids back then would have said something. Today, I don't think that problem exists so much anymore. So I don't see why they don't have the proms together. And so, but it's the same thing that you were talking about, Chris, is that it's actually exclusive because they're focusing on a small percentage of the population, and it would be much like having the white people prom. All ages white people prom, sponsored by, you know, Coos Health and Wellness. All colors welcome, but white people preferred. That's literally what they're saying, is that we're okay with anyone who's heterosexual, but we prefer the LGBTQ club.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Chris, I completely agree with your point that the primary focus here really needs to be on what's the appropriate role of government providing taxpayer funding, and is it to mimic something that we actually are ostensibly trying to discourage vis-a-vis the mocktails.
Yeah.
And I conducted some research into this when I discovered it, because I had never really thought of it. I've actually my wife and I have drunk a few mocktails over this past month because every year we do an alcohol fast. And normally we enjoy a glass of wine or two or something like that. Um, and and so anyway, we've had a couple of those and enjoyed them okay. You know, they're all right, but we're adults, right? We're already corrupted, so to speak. If we're actually trying to discourage underage drinking, why would we do it by presenting something that actually glamorizes
Yeah.
the drinking itself, that glamorizes the cocktails, that that creates additional curiosity about, oh, that tastes pretty good. I wonder what it tastes like with rum in it. Um, and so, and there, in my research that I have done subsequent to this discovery, I've found that actually there's a majority view in the psychological community that mocktails are not an effective deterrent.
Not at all.
They actually make it worse.
Yeah.
So, why isn't Coos Health and Wellness, and not that I would support this either, but why aren't they serving ginger ale and soda and milkshakes? I mean,
Well, the thing is about prom, and I don't know about you guys, but what is the main reason guys go to prom? And that's the score. Isn't that really, remember prom? That was when the greatest casualty is virginity on prom night. Okay, let's face it. That's the night when the girls and the young men become young men and young women, because that's when they go out and they have that first experience. I know, Chris. I
We
know
were
you're
very
laughing at
different
me.
people in high school. Sorry. No.
Yeah, I guess we were. Rod, will you back me up
Whatever.
on this? Wasn't prom like the time that you would get a you would sneak out and get a hotel room, or you'd be making out in the back of the car with that prom dress and stuff. Am I off here? And we would sneak booze into the prom to pour into the punch. Just saying.
yeah. So as to the first aspect of that, I can attest that I did see that. I didn't necessarily participate in that part of prom, um, but as to the alcohol part, absolutely, 1,000%. Our punch got spiked at my high school. There was no shortage of kids, probably I think probably including myself, that snuck out and partook of some alcohol and then came back and even snuck it in a little
Mhm.
flask or something. I mean, yeah, it definitely happened. And so I don't know. Bottom line is, from a psychologist's perspective, the mocktail angle doesn't discourage underage drinking. It probably does the reverse. So, and despite that, it's not an appropriate expenditure of government funds. Even if it was soda and milkshakes, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. The principle remains the same.
Well, and
But
they
it's
all
Coos
ate.
Health and Wellness though. What sugary drinks are not healthy. Like
That's right.
like what's it like? And what like a gin and tonic? So you're just giving them tonic water? Vodka cran? You're just giving them cranberry juice? I mean, it's stupid. And
Yeah.
and if it's a margarita or pina colada or something, and it's just a bunch of sugary drink, how is that healthy? It boggles me. Sorry, it doesn't make any
Well, I
sense.
go back to, once again, why is this fair? The city of Coos Bay right here. Get your tickets. It says it's not a phase prom, all ages. Once again, that's my problem with this whole thing, all ages, because you could potentially, I don't know if this is going to happen, but you could potentially have a 50-year-old man who's a pedophile being in the area of a 9-year-old kid.
Yep.
And
But
that's
it's in
just
North
mind-boggling.
Bend. It's in North Bend and it's sponsored by the county. Why is Coos Bay getting involved? Because
Yeah.
These entities have agendas, and that's why they post this, because it's part of their agenda.
But
Yeah.
they wouldn't do that for our TP USA event. And once again,
We're
our
not part of their
event was
agenda.
wholesome and good.
This is why we need to elect better leadership, because this sort of crap is unacceptable on either side of the aisle.
Yeah.
City councils, county commissions do not exist to push agendas like this. It's crazy.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think, like you said, if we had more people like Rod and you and me in those positions, that this stuff wouldn't be happening. I think there would be votes on the city council. And that law, that flag policy, it was never rescinded in Coos Bay. They just put a moratorium on it. So they have an unconstitutional law that they refuse to get rid of and have just basically put they have put a moratorium on it. So it still stands. They're just not utilizing it. So what does that say about them? If they're willing to have an unconstitutional law in their city charter, and someone asked, Rod, someone had asked earlier, does the bylaws or county charter, which we don't have a county charter, but is there anything in there that talks about when and where this type of funding or would be given out to any group?
No, not not to my knowledge. I don't think it's addressed.
Well, they're going to do the same thing with this. They're going to do this event, and then they're not going to do mocktails again, because they know the moment they, like, say they put out an application process to allow any group, if they meet a certain criteria, to allow them to sponsor mocktails. You and I would be signing up for it at some event, to put on some event to challenge it.
Yep.
And it would become a legal problem for them. So they wouldn't do it, just like the flag policy. And that's really cowardly, and here we go. Drew's at it again. Drew's involved. He doesn't have the cojones to say, you know what, this really isn't right, guys. And that's why I will never support him for these sorts of positions, because when it comes to these issues, he can't leave his politics out of it.
That would
I don't know if it's actually his politics or his genuine beliefs. I mean, I'm not going to prejudge that. It is what it is. He's got his position, whatever his reasons are. I don't believe he's going to swing from it. He does tend to stick with what he thinks. And here we go. Oh,
well, like Drew could support the event without supporting the county spending money to influence it with mocktails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Drew, if you're listening, like, seriously, dude, come on, like, just say this doesn't make sense. Like, how much money are you taking out of the event? Like, they can't go buy their own mocktails? I'll help them. You know what? I'll buy their freaking mocktails. I really will. Hold me to it. I'll buy the whole event's mocktails, just so that the county is not involved, because it's inappropriate. We should not do it now and never again. They probably won't let me buy their mocktails, but
and before we go any further, I just want to say to everyone out there who's probably cussing, fuming, and moaning right now because they didn't know this is happening, and we're telling them it's going to happen, and they're probably mad about this. Don't make any threats. Don't go online and go crazy. Act with a little bit of dignity, because once again, these people do have freedom of assembly. They have a right to do this. The question here is, should the taxpayers be forced to pay for it? One. Two, should drag shows be allowed for all ages events? Those to me are the two big things, don't you think?
Yep.
I mean, I don't think we should influence private events. We have laws on the books. So there's laws about, like, handing pornography to a minor, right? There's laws on the books that specify, like, what is criminal and what isn't. So if someone's putting on a private event that has criminal behavior, they're handing drugs to kids, pornography, doing something sexual that is breaking the criminal code, then that can be dealt with, right? There's an avenue to deal with that. I don't think this crosses that line, and therefore there should be no issue with it if it's a private event. Then what happens is it now is in the public domain because you have public entity sponsoring part of that event, and that becomes a problem. That's what I'm saying. Like you can win the argument without having to get down the rabbit hole of whether you agree with drag shows for all ages. I don't.
Right.
I just make that clear. That is
Yeah.
insane to me. But
you're right.
private
Yeah,
event.
it's and I think our examples of the Turning Point event, we would just have been just as incensed by them funding the Turning Point event as funding this event. Your favorite, your number one fan there, Rod, good old Sal Carruthers. He says that you're out there spreading false claims about the LGBTQ prom, suggesting that those of us supporting are grooming kids. You want to address that? Because I haven't even heard that claim yet on this show.
Yeah, no, I haven't said that. And I was actually, when I saw this comment, I didn't realize that is the individual who wrote this. That's kind of rich, actually, coming from that particular individual.
Yeah.
But so when I saw it, I actually brought up my agenda item that I wrote, and I'll just read the requested action that I listed on it is to discuss potential legal and moral liabilities for Coos County due to potential adult child predator activity at an all ages nighttime event, and also whether mocktails are an effective deterrent to underage drinking, and direct Coos Health and Wellness staff to retract partnership for the event. So I haven't made a claim that it's a grooming event. I said that it's an event that could be capitalized on by child predators. And if this individual who wrote this would like to debate the existence of child predators, then I have some deputy district attorneys and some sheriff's deputies and detectives that I would really like for him to have a conversation with, because he will learn otherwise.
And that's something else that people would just be blown away with if they had to sit through many of the meetings where you deal with funding. I forget the name of the association or the agency, the different agencies that you have to deal with all the kids who are abused, especially sexually abused, who have to go through horrible experiences. You literally have to go through a lot of those details, don't you, as a commissioner?
No, I'm mercifully insulated largely from those details. I get enough of them to infer what the rest of the realities are. That's why I specifically mentioned detectives, deputies, and deputy district attorneys. Those are the people who pour through, and also members of the parole and probation, the community corrections department. Those are the people who take it really on the chin and have to look at these materials and witness the fallout and the absolute devastation in the lives of the victims, the minor victims and the adult victims of these predators. And those predators exist. And, one thing that I've noticed in my life is that the person who decries the attempts to identify and restrict those activities and convict on them, the person who decries that the loudest is really someone who maybe should be looked at.
Yeah.
Methinks the man doth protest too much.
I think so too. I want to play a minute of a news story that was out a couple of years ago, but it's still happening today, and I just want to play this for a second.
Yeah, in case you were wondering if they were targeting kids, they're literally targeting kids. Here's more footage from the same event.
I've been working so hard. I've actually worked my butthole right off. Look at that. Look at that.
Okay, that's enough of that grossness. But that's what potentially you could be seeing at this event. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but this is the kinds of things they do at these all ages shows. And once again, I don't want to make that argument. I'm saying that, you know, it's the money that's the problem. But damn, like you said, if there was a predator who really wanted to have contact with kids, this is like a candy truck, a predator, a pedo candy truck coming down the street with the music going off.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, there's just simply no valid argument that I can construe to support the idea of a county department being a sponsor of this event in the way that they are, or at all. And I even want to clarify that, you know, Coos Health and Wellness, by and large, does really good work. They do a lot of good work in the county, and I personally like the people there and the people in the management over there, and they do not operate on any local county tax funds. The funds that Coos Health and Wellness operates on come from the state of Oregon, and to a lesser degree, the federal government, although much of the state money is routed from the feds. So it is tax money, and it is to whatever degree Coos County residents participate in federal and state taxes. You know, to that degree, yes, it is, but it's not directly taxed by Coos County and funding Coos Health and Wellness. That's not the case. And I'll also point out that Coos Health and Wellness, as a department, they are the most well-funded department in the county, bar none.
Bar none.
And the director there, Mike Rowley, does make great efforts to be supportive of the general fund, which funds all of the departments we are directly responsible for, that we mentioned earlier in the podcast. You know, the assessor and the clerk and the surveyor and the sheriff and the so many others. Anyway, so they're supportive and helpful in that, and while they can't take their funds and directly attribute them or contribute them to any of those departmental operations, they do find creative ways to be helpful and supportive. And so, you know, I want to give credit where credit is due. And just because I have one policy disagreement with them or another, doesn't take anything away from the good work that they do. So I just want to make that point real clear.
Jeff Petit says, again, can children attend alone, or do they have to have a parent or guardian with them? I don't think we know, do we?
No, we don't. There's no indication on the poster. There's no indication on the Eventbrite site that would answer that question. And so, you know, I think that one has to assume that those youth can attend.
So you could be a 12-year-old kid, show up to this event. This is because we really don't know. You could be a 12-year-old. And I went to a lot of crazy places when I was 12 in the 70s. It was free-range babies out there. But we went to a lot of crazy places. But today, to have a 12-year-old to go someplace like this, that's just, wow, that's wild.
It's dangerous.
Dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, and your meeting is on Wednesday. Last item on the agenda, 9:30 Wednesday. Yep. We need to get people out there. So if you can get out there, be out there. Chris, are you going to be out there?
I'm going to try. Yeah, I think it's important. I just really think they need to understand that it's not appropriate to sponsor it. It's one thing to have it. It's, like, so they had a drag show at the Egyptian Theater 2 years ago or so,
Yeah.
and I saw an actual video from it, and it was similar to the one you just showed, and there were kids in the front dancing. So it was inappropriate. This was not a family-friendly drag show. What the video I saw was inappropriate in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't attend any events at the Egyptian Theater after that. Ironically, we just had one at the Egyptian Theater. But my point is that's a way to protest. You can say, hey, I don't want to support that sort of business anymore. I don't want to support events like that or any businesses that support those events. And that's a choice you can make. It's a good choice you can make to show your protest against it. But how would I not pay? You said it comes from, Oregon state tax. So like I pay into the Oregon state tax through my income tax, and it goes to Clues Health and Wellness. Do I just not pay my income tax? I mean, that's the point of why you don't do, very controversial events like this. But it's also why elections matter and why we need to get different people in there. And I can appreciate Rod's position, saying, Mike Crowley does a good job, or Mike Rowley does a good job, and he's in there and they're doing a lot of good for the community. But I think anybody in that position would. I think anybody would use the millions upon millions of dollars to do good for our community. And the problem is we have somebody in there that's deciding to do this with that money as well. And I wish we would maybe have a different director that wouldn't do stuff like this. There's lots of qualified candidates out there that could probably do the same amount of good and a little less weird stuff like this. So, but even if Rod felt that way, he can't do that alone as one commissioner.
No, he
so that's
can't.
why elections are important.
And what makes me kind of ticked off, Rod, is that we were supposed to be able to use some of that Coos Health and Wellness money for a sobering center. What happened? Whatever happened to the sobering?
Opioid settlement fund was supposed to go to that.
Yeah. That's correct. And it is the sobering center is advancing, albeit on a much slower schedule than it would have if I had my way.
Right.
There have been a lot.
I keep getting told 6 months every time I ask.
Yeah,
the
there
past
have been
2
a
years.
lot of hoops to step through, and things just don't happen the way that they do in private sector.
No.
In running our business, I'm accustomed to making consulting on a decision with the parties involved, making this decision on the spot, and then executing on it. We just do it. It's not that way in government. I wish that it were different, and I would love to change it. Unfortunately, as Chris just pointed out, there's only so much that one person can do, and county commissioners just don't have that much power.
So me and Chris were talking about running some local initiatives. And after discussing this, I'm thinking one local initiative should be directed at county agencies being able to sponsor these type of events or any events. Maybe we should look into
incredibly hard
that.
to legislate.
I don't know.
That's the rabbit hole you end up going down, right? You're going to over legislate to try and counter an issue like this when the real issue is leadership. We have all of the functions. If something's criminal, take them to court. Go to the DA's office and talk to them and say, hey, I witnessed something criminal at this event. People were crossing a line that went into, okay, if that happens, there's an avenue for that. And if you think that something should be criminal that currently isn't, then we can change Oregon leadership and you can update the ORSs and change what is criminal. Just like the gun people, they want to outlaw guns. It's like, okay, well, there's a way to do that. You have to change our constitution. You have to amend our constitution to do that. That's the way you do it. You don't legislate weird magazine limits and crap like that. Anyways, that's a rant. But yeah, that it's an issue with leadership, not with legislation. That could get down a really big rabbit hole if you try and legislate away stuff like that.
Well,
But I do have an idea
trying
for
to
the
think
sobering center.
Yeah.
If don't stop calling it a sobering center, call it a sobering center for gays and the like, and it'll immediately get tons of funding and attention, and they'll rush to get it out there. So
The Rainbow Sobering Center.
Put an
like
agenda behind it, and Drew and his friends will get it done.
That's a great idea, Chris. I like the creativity.
the Rainbow Sobering Center.
The
I will
Rainbow.
recommend that
There
to
you go.
Drew on Wednesday. The
Rainbow Center. Free
Sobering
mocktails.
Center.
Yeah.
We prefer to sober up people in the LGBT community, but we will accept anyone. I like.
I mean,
that.
like seriously though, that is a place that mocktails would make sense. You know?
Yes.
It's sober. Like, come on down, leave the bar, get your free mocktails and non-alcoholic buzz at the Rainbow Center.
Since I got you two guys here, and this was a big issue. In fact, we had it on the ballot for a county administrator. It went down in flames. Steve Nye, he's presented this. He thinks there should be like a city manager for the city council. He thinks there should be a county manager or a county administrator.
County executive.
And Rod, what do you think of that?
Real simply, I think that that's not a great idea. With our current common law structure or general law structure of Coos County, the 3 county commissioners are co-equal executives over every department in the county, and we break it up in Coos County by department. Each one of us has a liaison association with specific departments, and that doesn't necessarily give us greater executive authority over that department, but it does give us the immediate guidance to that department.
Right.
And Coos Health and Wellness is not one of my liaison assignments. I surrendered that in deference to the sheriff and the district attorney when Bob Main left office, and we did a little bit of a shuffle. My honest view is, Steve, with all due respect, I think that a county executive or a county manager working under the commissioners would be a removal of accountability. And county managers, city managers, they are not elected by the people, and so there's a lack of direct accountability where I am elected by you and everybody else who voted for me, which obviously was a majority of the people. And that doesn't mean that I don't serve all the people, even the ones who voted against me. It is my task to make sure that the county works as constitutionally mandated for all of those people. But to insert an unelected appointed position in between those layers, I think is a mistake. I think it would be a disaster. And I can tell you, just based on my observations of discussions that we have in work sessions and board meetings, that the other commissioners feel the same way. So I see it as a non-starter. I'm not necessarily opposed to Coos County becoming a charter county, but the charter construct should not include a county manager. I just think it would be a bad idea all the way around. So,
Chris, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So Emily made a good point about bad city managers like North Bend. But, again, back to leadership. The leaders in North Bend, the city councilors, got to put that in quotes. They chose that city manager. They actually selected him. They brought him here. So they should be held accountable for that. That's tough because, they make it look like it's just him, not them. But before you even go down that, have the conversation, you got to understand. And I don't think we have all the data on it. Rod can probably talk to this more than any of us, but you got to know. So there's 3 county commissioners and a manager. What is Bobby called?
Bobby is our
office
business
manager?
operations manager.
Business op. So those
And
four
you have
positions.
Megan. Hold on, you have Megan as the finance director. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there too.
True. Well, I was just trying to say, like, what is the kind of everyday, day-to-day operations of the county? And so I kind of see those four main positions, right? 3 commissioners, and they're supposed to be full-time jobs, and the business operations manager. I believe that budget is like roughly $500,000 a year to pay all those positions and benefits. So say you could identify, and I'm making this up, I don't know, but like say you could identify that like 80% of your collective work is non-policy, just kind of operational sort of stuff that is not really like a subjective policy decision, even though policies should be objective and not subjective. But if you could identify that as that, and then there's 20% that's policy, maybe you could make an argument for, hey, we need a county manager that does all that 80% stuff. And then the other 20% is by the county commissioners. And instead of being under a salary, we just kind of come to meetings and do events, and we have like a stipend. So like Rod, you would get like a $1,000 to $2,000 a month stipend or something like that, like 20,000 a year, 15,000 a year, which I believe is roughly what the finance director gets. I think it's like
Right.
15,000 a year. So that would make sense to me if those things are all true, and it would save the county money. I think it would kind of separate what's policy and what's not. And the issue really in North Bend with David Milliron is, first of all, poor choice, poor judgment in an employee. And then second, they're giving him a lot of leeway in terms of policy. He's pushing a lot of policy and has a lot of agenda sort of decision-making ability. And that's an issue. So not a easy, quick conversation, but I like it in terms of fiscal responsibility and time management, but I just don't even know if maybe that doesn't fit for our county.
Yeah, and I'll interject that, to have the commissioner role be more of a part-time arrangement would be a welcome change for me personally, because it is a time demand that is, it can be arduous at times. But I don't think that would be the way that the taxpayers would be best served. I think that having the person who is ideologically aligned to the degree that you were inclined to vote for them, directly responsible for the operation of those departments and the decisions that are made at a managerial level, I think that that's a better solution to project the will of the people onto the operations of the county.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, making it part-time would just open it up to a bigger pool of people that could do that position, right? There's a lot of people that I talk to, like, hey, would you ever consider running for county commissioner? They're like, no, I have a job and a family. I couldn't do that full-time. And it's just like, end of story right away. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's credence to that point. And, and I look around and I see that same thing to some degree. I do. I also see a lot of people who have already been successful in a career or a business, or are in a situation like I am, where a business is continuing to run with some background help and other staff running some of the day to day. It really is a time burden, but I mean, I think anybody who's willing to step up and work in that role, coming from that kind of those kinds of positions can be effective. So I didn't quite see that question that came up there.
It was, well, let me read it, because it's kind of interesting. This is Peggy. She says, so essentially like a CEO that allocates funds and departments report to the CEO, all except elective positions. So understanding that, yes, the commissioners would still be in charge of the administrator, and all decisions would still have to go through the city councils or the county commissioners. I'm sorry, for a board of commissioners. Of course, it would be the county commissioners before anyone like a city manager or a county manager would be able to make any decisions. So they do have to go through in other words, you still have the final decision.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's true. And, Steve, I see Steve Nye's point here as well, that yes, a city or county executive, would have a specialized educational set of knowledge and all of that. But, the department heads, I think, really deserve a lot of credit for the specialized knowledge
Right.
that they have.
Right.
And, they are directly accountable to us as employees. Some of them, one of them, some of them are also elected. So, there's not actual oversight, accountability, for instance, with the clerk or with the surveyor or the sheriff. In the case of the treasurer, the treasurer part of her job is really rather minor. The majority of her role is as finance director, and as finance director, she is accountable as an employee to us.
Right.
For those other electeds, we're responsible for their budget. So there is an accountability mechanism there, but they directly answer to the people for the job that they do. I mean, you can keep going on about it. The bottom line is, I don't, in my view, there's not enough evidence that we would be better off as a county with an executive or a county manager installed in between us and the department heads.
Not at the level of cuts that you guys have made at this point. I don't think it would be justifiable. And here's the reason that I think that we have a problem in a lot of cities. And I go to this comment that Steve Nye is making. He says a professional executive has the education and skill set to manage multiple departments. This is a big conversation. Yes and no. Part of the problem that I see with city administrators, especially, but this would affect a county administrator or a county manager, is that we are having government get too far involved with other businesses. Utilities is a perfect example of it. I mean, we just have a port right now who had to come out and come clean the fact that they don't know how to run a railroad. They bought a railroad, got a railroad for $1, cost them $28 million to try to fix it, and now we're going to need $75 million to get rid of it. So not always having a professional who's making these decisions is going to benefit you if there is no accountability, one. But two, if you have someone who's accountable to the people, they're not going to make those same type of mistakes. And the port is a good example because they're picked by the governor, not by the people. And I think they would have been a little bit more responsible in that decision.
Yeah, well, to be fair on that argument as well, Rob, a previous county commission board did authorize and proceed with the construction of the gas pipeline that runs from Douglas County over here, and and Coos County owns it. And we've owned it for quite a number of years, and it's been an ongoing liability. And the good news is that actually in Wednesday's meeting, we will be, I think, issuing what I believe is the final authorization to transfer that pipeline, and it will no longer belong to Coos County within just a few weeks or a month.
I've been dealing with that for 20 years plus there, Rod. And I think those commissioners did pay a price for that, if I remember.
Yeah, well, all of us subsequent commissioners have also paid a price, just not a political price because we didn't do it. we have paid a political price, I guess, in one sense, because of the budgetary decisions that we've had to make, that partially are due to that liability coming to the fore with slide after slide after undercut after slide
Yeah.
that we've had to pay for repairs on.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely gratified to be seeing an end to that. And certainly a lot of credit goes to Commissioner Sweet for his work on liquidating that asset, as well as to our county council, who's really burned the midnight oil to work on the contractual issues and all of the regulatory requirements with the Public Utilities Commission. So, and also Northwest Natural for agreeing to take it. And by golly, it's only going to cost us a couple $1 million to get rid of it. Isn't that great? There's
But
no
to
other
your-
way, though, boys. There's no
Yeah,
other way, and we've
I
got
know.
to divest of it. We are not a utility operator. We are a county.
And that goes back to my point. That's why a lot of times they want county administrators and managers, because they have to have the knowledge to be able to run those utilities. And now we're asking them to be developers. It's now we want public providing housing for our employees. They're doing that here in Bandon now and stuff. And it's just getting to the point where maybe that's the problem. Government has gotten into too many different fields in the market, and that's why our managers have to be so well educated.
Mm-hmm. And Rob, also, I just don't give much credence to the notion that a county manager or county executive would be able to have the broad range of specialized knowledge that would be required to maximize the effectiveness in all of those areas. That's where the liaison assignments is really kind of a beautiful thing, because Commissioner Sweet is the liaison to the forestry department, and he knows forestry really well. And he works well with that department, and that department generates north of $1 million in positive revenue for the county every year. I'm the liaison to the sheriff's department. I'm familiar with what their operations are, and can meet those. I don't come from a law enforcement background, but anyway, I think that the division of those responsibilities really kind of distributes the level of expertise, and we do partner up and rely largely on our department heads and other elected officials who run departments as well. They really know the nuts and bolts. We're at 30,000 feet monitoring all of this and making sure that everything works together to the best degree possible.
And Steve Nye says not all ideas are home runs, but the conversation helps. The sheriff and the clerk being elected is another layer. That's why we should never think about things like arithmetic when the real world operates on calculus. And very true. It's a lot of different aspects to that. I'm kind of bored with this conversation. We kind of drilled it into the ground. Unless, Chris, you got something else you want to say on it?
No. Yeah. 3-dimensional vectors. That's what we're dealing with.
Yeah. So
I do have to get going.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Did you have a question?
Well, since if you got to get going, because I kind of wanted to lead into something else. We've got a primary election coming on. We just had Chris Dudley jump in. Patrick Hales has conceded because he said he was going to get out if a better person got in, and Ed Deal got in. And so he has conceded his governor's race. And so we're one out, but more in. I just want to hear your guys' take on what do you think of the governor's election, and what do you see happening?
Chris,
you want to go first?
I'm excited. I think there's a lot of good candidates. We've had one of them come out and talk to us. We're going to have more. We're going to try and put together a candidate forum. We're shooting for March right now. I'm excited for that. I encourage people to reach out to all the candidates, and don't just pick the one that you think is best. It's like Steve was talking about arithmetic. That's like arithmetic level. Like you have to think calculus. Like, can they win the general election? Can they
Right.
actually lead Oregon? Even if they can win, are they going to represent conservatives in a good way that gets us winning like future down the road, right? Like you don't want an embarrassing Republican in there. That would be bad. So, but yeah, I'm not really going to endorse anybody at this moment. But it's definitely exciting to have so many good people in the race,
Nice
and
hat.
really,
His hats.
yeah. So
Very cool. Very cool. Rod, what do you think?
Well, many candidates makes for robust debate, and that's a good thing. It also thins out the funds available in the primary. Now, I mean, the purpose of a primary is to shake out the most qualified, ostensibly most qualified candidate of a particular party. And, I think that we do have some pretty well qualified candidates. I was surprised to see Ed Deal jump in to the race late as he did. I was surprised also to see Chris Dudley jump in. I don't. I mean, I actually felt early that we had a pretty strong candidate with a good background and a demonstrated a demonstrated executive leadership that like what is needed in the governor's seat, and that was in Danielle Bethel, who's on Chris's hat there. I've served alongside Danielle as a county commissioner and worked with her at the Association of Oregon Counties, and I've seen that she's a go-getter. She's unafraid to speak the truth. She does so capably, fearlessly, and frankly, I've been pretty disappointed with some Republican candidates of late. I may not mention by name, but one that comes to mind, her initials are Christine Drazen, and she's, I mean, she talked a good game, but when the rubber met the road, she didn't have the demonstrated courage of her convictions, and that was real disappointing. So I came out and officially endorsed Danielle Bethel. That was prior to Deal and Dudley jumping into the race, but I don't regret my endorsement. I think that Danielle is a strong candidate. Can she win the general? Yes, she could win the general against Tina Kotek. She is a formidable candidate. She's a force to be reckoned with. Can she win the primary? I don't know.
Yeah.
Ed Deal has quite a bit of pull. Chris Dudley won it before, and and many of us, including me, believe that he actually won the general as well, and that it was stolen from him.
Yeah.
With again, oh dang, look at this, we found all these boxes of ballots. Huh. Darn. And
He was so close too.
Yeah, and it looks like none of them are for Chris Dudley. How about that? Golly.
Yeah.
We tire of this
It's not
game.
funny.
No, it's not funny. We're tired of this. Anyway, I endorse Danielle Bethel heartily and enthusiastically, and look forward to a great primary season. And I look forward to this gubernatorial debate. We had one what was that, in 21 in Bandon. The road to the governor's mansion goes through Bandon, we called it.
That was huge. That was big.
Yep. We filled the Sprague Theater. We had some rabble rousers. We had a lot of really robust debate. I was very honored to moderate that debate along with my friend Cheyenne Lake, and it was a great production. We were just thrilled with the way that came off.
Was that CRL did that?
Yeah, it was.
Oh wow,
And
CRL did a good thing then. Must have been a good
we
organization.
we did many good things, Chris, despite the criticisms of
Wow, he
the
put it up.
despite the
He had
criticisms
it ready.
posited right here. Yes, this is
Yep.
yeah. Um, I'll point out that CRL consistently had probably about 8 to 10 times the attendance that the CCRC did during the same
Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah,
and
you
we
guys
and
were.
we met every single week,
Yep.
not once a month. So I really take issue with the central committee's allegations here that
This was not the Central Committee's allegation for anybody reading this, by the way. This is Michael Brainard, chair, authoritarian, fascist. Yes, I'm using liberal buzzwords.
I
And this is why liberals think we're like this. It's because of people who do shit like this. But
yeah.
yeah, this is somebody using the Coos County Republican Central Committee name to spout their own gripes with personal people. And
At this
we
point,
were-
honestly, you guys, I'm starting to wonder if Michael Brainard is a long plant.
I'm starting to wonder as well, because you say things, he says things in his like Citizens Restoring Liberty, a group known for opposing local vaccination clinics and raising election integrity concerns. Well, we were right about both, Rod.
Yes,
did the
we
Democrat
were,
Party
Rob.
write that?
I mean,
Sounds like something the Democrat Party would gripe about.
Yeah.
it does. It does. And you know what? I guess that's what you get out of soy boys,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah,
what
milk
we're dealing
toast.
with.
I appreciate that you guys did that. Seriously, like freaking
Yeah, me
kudos
too.
beyond anything you can imagine. And that like thank you for putting together CRL. Thank you for fighting those fights. Like you guys just mentioned, they were righteous battles in the end. You
Yep.
guys, I mean, you were right the whole time, but now you've
Yeah.
been vindicated. That's what real leadership and community organization is like.
And they never would have been needed if the Republicans would have been doing what they should have been doing. You wouldn't
the
have needed
Republican
Citizens
Party would have
Restoring
had if they had the leadership and the everything that Rod brought with CRL. If that was welcomed into the Republican Party, we would have a very empowered Republican Party right now in Coos County.
And I have to
they
I
didn't.
have to interject here that yes, I had a significant role as a founding member of CRL, but there were others who played absolutely critical roles in advancing that cause. Scott Brewster, Maria Merriam, Stan Avery, Pastor Dan Wilson, and many others. Yeah, it was a real thing and a tremendous encouragement every week. We loved going to those meetings, man. We had a good time.
Yeah.
Well, when I first got to town, that was like if you asked anything in the conservative libertarian realm, if you posed any question, they said go to CRL in Bandon on Fridays at Restoration Worship. I mean, it was everybody knew that. And it took, I believe, 2.5 years till anyone mentioned that there was even a Republican Party that existed. That's how long it took. And that was after I had filed to run for commissioner. It was months into my campaign that people said, by the way, there's a Republican Party that meets. And I was like, really? And then they said I couldn't come. It's crazy. You guys did a good thing. You should be proud.
Very proud of you guys.
We are. And I'm proud of you guys too. And I looking like I kind of need to get running too. Rob, is there anything else you wanted to cover before I go?
You covered more than I even wanted you to cover, but there were so many questions coming up. Then you and Chris were here. I thought it'd be good to have you both on. Is there anything either of you would like to say before I get you out of here?
God bless you. God
Appreciate
bless
you,
America.
Rob. Most valuable
Appreciate
conservative. 2025.
There you go. And thank you. I did win the award of most valuable conservative in Coos County. I want to thank the fine people at the Fockers. I guess that makes me a good conservative, award-winning Focker. I'm an award-winning Focker. That's what I am. Oh boy, that's going to get me in trouble.
You're
All
one
right,
fine
guys, I
fucker.
appreciate you all coming on, and you all take care. Okay.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah.
Bye
Bye,
bye,
Sam.
All
guys.
right, see you all. All right, and that was Chris Castleman, Rod Taylor, and it was good to have him come on to talk about a lot of the different aspects of what's happening here in Coos County. I do want to, there was an article that I have to share this. I have to put this up on screen because it was something, this is completely off of the subjects we've been talking about right here. It talks about, and this is the World newspaper. This was an article that says fewer immigrants are seeking Oregon health care benefits under Trump. And I think this is a great thing. I think this is a wonderful thing. They say fewer immigrants. No, what they mean is illegal aliens who are legally allowed to get onto our welfare systems and suck money from all you hardworking taxpayers, while they basically live in the life of Riley. You know, they get their homes paid for, they get their health care paid for, they get their education paid for. I'm not sure why I shouldn't be an illegal alien and sneak into my own country. It sounds like they got a really good thing going on here. Let me see if I can increase the size of this a little bit. There we go. That's a little bit better. It says thousands fewer people are receiving healthcare through a Medicaid-like Oregon program that's open to income-eligible people regardless of immigration status than were 6 months ago, state data shows, meaning that Trump's immigration policy is actually working. This is a good thing. This is what we want. We want fewer illegals sucking off the teat of American taxpayers. And I don't care if they're lily white Swedes. In fact, if they're lily white Swedes or they're Irish, I want them off first. I want them, if they're illegal aliens, they need to get off. So this isn't about race. This isn't about color. It's about being right or wrong. It's about people coming to this country thinking that they should be allowed to live off the rest of us. I'm just opposed to that. I know it's crazy. It's a crazy idea, but it says let me continue. It says 2 years after its launch, the Healthier Oregon program reached a peak enrollment of 107,000 people in June, according to data from the Oregon Health Authority. That includes people who have refugee status, lawful permanent residents, those enrolled in deferred action for childhood arrivals, work or student visa holders, or others who would otherwise qualify for Medicaid if it weren't for their immigration status. So what we're seeing here is, a lot fewer illegals going to be taking our money home. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a damn good thing. And once again, I want to thank everyone who helped us out at the Turning Point event. That was such a success. I want to show some pictures here of the whole 3-day process. This was as we were over at the Coach House. This is where we met. The first meeting we had with Lincoln Cazares and Nolan Crombie. And this was the most important reason why we brought them in here. They were meeting with the private schools, and some of I believe they met with one principal from the regular school, but I do know that they met with a couple of pastors, a couple of churches, and they were very successful in reaching out and have got a lot of young people interested in creating their own Turning Point groups. Here was from the dinner. This is Rob and Chris clowning around at the dinner. It was a great time, wonderful time. I had a great time. Everyone there said it was a good night for everyone. So I don't know what to tell you. This was a really impressive speaker. In fact, I would say all the kids there, every single one of them, were just amazing speakers. They were really. We should have had a few more kids show up who wanted to talk, because I was just so impressed by these young people. You know, we give them a lot of crap. You know, they're lazy, they're stupid, they don't know what the hell they're doing. No, these kids are pretty damn smart. They're pretty damn clever, and they've got their you know what together. They really do. This young lady here, her name is Genesis. She's Steve Lund's daughter, the gentleman who was the MC, and man, she rocked the boat when she was up there. In fact, her dad, Steve Lund, who was the MC, The man it was a pleasure working with him. He was a professional, and we had a lot of change ups for the show. We had a lot of change ups. We had the turning point was supposed to be at the end, but they were in the middle, and we had Mo Bannon at the end, and we were supposed to have questions and answers with Turning Point. They didn't want to do it, but then Maureen Bannon, she did want to do the questions and answers, so we had a question and answer section with her. So it seemed to be okay. Let's see. I think his name is Isaiah. This young man is absolutely impressive. This is the future of Coos County. These two people here, Genesis and Isaiah, these young people are the future of Coos County. And I feel a lot better for meeting them because it gives me a lot more hope for the future. This was Lincoln Cazares, and the young man he's talking to, I forget the young man's name. He plays football for one of the high schools here. This young man gave a prayer that was so touching, that was so relevant, that was so just to the point of what's going on in Coos County and what is needed by the people of Coos County. It actually brought a tear to my eye. I was sitting there, and I got to sit down during this part of the event. You know, when you're bringing in people, the speakers, and working with the MC and stuff, I didn't get a lot of chance to see the show, but I was able to sit down for the 5 minutes that this young man was on the stage, and his speech, his prayer that he gave, like I said, it brought a tear to my eye. I was sitting there, and a tear was running down my cheek. It was so impactful. And I was so thankful that this young man decided to come to that event on Thursday, and speak to everyone. I don't know who this young man is, but if I can get him at another event, I'm going to have him at that event to deliver that type of prayer again, because it was, even if you're not religious, there is wisdom and people who pray and people who live by the words of Jesus. There's great wisdom in that. I myself, not religious, but I do follow the teachings of Jesus. I do read up on that kind of stuff. And so it's good that we have young people who are much more in tune in it than, some of us adults. This lady here, she was great. Mo Bannon, she was wonderful. She came in. She was a pleasure to meet and was excellent. She stayed around after the show and got a lot of pictures with people, talked. She did a question and answer. Mo Bannon rocks. She really rocks. In fact, afterwards, we got to go over to a local bar, and we were hanging out. That right there is Mo Bannon and the Operation 1776 crew. That's right. Operation 1776, OP 1776. If you want to find out more, it's op1776.com. They're a customer relationship management and market platform business. They are putting people into office who want to get into office by providing them with the data and the leads necessary to run your campaigns or to run your business. It's a really incredible group of people. And it was really cool hanging out with them and Mo Bannon. Really, really enjoyed it. Good stuff going on. What can I tell you? And I want to thank all of you. Before I get out of here, let's get to the comments. It looks like I have a few comments that came in here. James McHenry says, Sal and Ed seem to think I'm either Doug Washington or Diane. Well, that's scary. That's scary, James. That's very scary. I know who James is, and he is neither Doug nor Diane. So I don't know what these people are talking about. Coos Dialogue says the young people spoke very strongly. I was proud to hear them handle themselves so maturely. I was too. Like I said, it restored my faith in the younger generation. I really restored my belief that, hopefully we have people who are growing up who are just not absolutely crazy, because I talked to, I've actually interviewed some of these kids. I've interviewed a couple of ladies who won or were contestants in the Miss Coos or the Oregon, Oregon beauty pageant. I'm not sure if they call it the beauty pageant now. I forget what they call it. But some of those women were so woke, even the one from Coos County, very woke. All they could talk about is the gay agenda and the woke ideology. And so it's sad when I talk to some of these leaders in the schools. I interviewed a young lady who wrote a great article. It was a good article in the Marshfield newspaper, the Marshfield High School newspaper. And I interviewed her, and I told her, I said, when you go to college, make sure you don't get the face tattoos, all the piercings, and dye your hair blue, and become a vegan, and become a leftist commie. And sure as heck, a couple of years later, her dad wrote me back and said, "Yep, everything you said, she had become." And so I don't know if I would even send my kids to college these days. It seems like they're just getting brainwashed, and it's very sad. But the people that we had on that stage, they're not going to be brainwashed. Nope. Very good people. Coos Dialogue says Caleb Fox was the young man's name. Caleb Fox. That guy was incredible. He's a football player, and he's a very wise young man, wise beyond his age. I was very, very impressed. Let's see. I hope you all can tune in to the commissioners meeting. If you can't go, you can still make a comment online at the commissioners meeting. Go to the agenda section of their website at the Coos County, the city or the county's website, and you can find where you can catch a link to the live feed of the meeting on Wednesday. That's 9:30 at the Owens Building. I'm going to be there. Because, like I said, we just put on an event where the very people who were protesting us probably are the ones who would support government paying for an all ages drag show prom for our kids. I don't know. Maybe I should give you a little bit of because we did this at the beginning of the show. Maybe I should remind you what we're fighting against. All ages pride prom drag show. Like I said, if it was all ages but with no drag show, and our tax dollars weren't involved, and there were no mocktails, I could care less. That this is going on. In fact, I think it's a good thing that high schoolers and college kids who are gay, who are homosexual, who do have those type of lifestyles, I think it's a great thing that they all get together and know who each other are, because there's strength in numbers. However, I don't think we should be allowing 7-year-olds to show up for drag shows. Just my opinion. Let's see. Laura Goodman says, huge thank you for the live stream of the Turning Point event. We weren't going to do that originally, but so many people requested it, Laura, that me and Chris, and it was Chris decided to go ahead and live stream it. It was funny. Like I said, nothing in that event turned out the way it was planned, and yet it turned out so incredibly good. But yeah, he decided to go ahead and live stream it because he wanted to show the rest of the community that what we were being accused of, the hate, the bigotry, the fascism that we were being accused of, did not happen. There was no hate speech in that auditorium, in that theater that night. It did not happen. It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing that happened that night. And I'll tell you, everyone left that building, left the theater feeling better about the future. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. I don't know. But yeah, Laura, I agree with you. I'm glad we were able to live stream that. Let's see. Coos Dialogue says, as a liberal, I certainly don't support tax dollars going to this event. No, absolutely not. I did have, let's see if I still have this video. Well, here, I think I can show it from my video file here if I got it. I did have a short video of the protest, I thought. Let's see. I thought I had a video of the protest outside. No, obviously I don't. That's sad. That's very sad. Yeah, I had that. I don't know where that went. That's okay. That's okay. Let's see if let's close that. Let me see. That's not it. That's not it. That's okay. I'll show you a video maybe this Friday night. For the Friday night rant, I'm going to see if I can get the lady who was protesting our event on here. Her name's Marley. She was very kind enough to come out to our dance. Our concert wasn't a dance. It was a concert on Friday night. And I'll tell you that Brandon Hart, he rocks, man. I don't know, for a country guy, he rocks. I really enjoyed the show. Brandon Hart just rocked it. And so, let's see whose dialogue. He says, funnily enough, I don't have any footage of it either. That's me, Rob. Yep. And so, Brandon Hart would just really was on key, and unfortunately for him, I was emceeing the concert, and I was really off key. I was really off. Yeah, I don't know if you're a speaker for events. Sometimes I can go to events and I can be a speaker and I can nail it right out of the park. For the dinner, I did a great job speaking for the dinner. But boy, I'll tell you what, Friday night at the concert, the introduction I did for Chris Castleman was almost cringeworthy. It was cringeworthy. It was like, it was so bad because I was so tired. And yet it made me mad because, our band, our Brandon Hart guy who came in, they were good. They were really good. They deserved we had like 78 people there, but I was hoping to like double or triple that number and have a lot of people out there dancing on the floor and having a good time. But it was a good time. We enjoyed ourselves. So there was 3 nights of fun. We probably will never do 3 nights again, but we do have some events coming up. In mid-March, we're going to have that governor's debate. We'll talk more about that as the time comes in. But this Friday on the Friday Night Rant, I hope to have Marley on the show. Maybe we'll get Chris on here, and we'll try to find out why she was protesting us. That would be very interesting. So I'm going to ask her and see if she can come on. And if not, we're just going to do the regular rant. I don't know. We'll just see. It's always good to rant. And I want to thank you all for joining me. Let's see, before I get out of here, I have to thank a few people. It's always important to thank those sponsors because, well, they might think I forgot about them. And I didn't forget about them. In fact, today we usually play Where's 3H Tree Service, but they didn't play today. I'm not sure why or what happened. Matt got back to me and said they weren't playing today. But if you need your trees, if you got a problem, with the branches that look like they're going to fall down at any point in time, the trees, they're waving in the wind. Maybe it's time to take that tree out. You know who you go to? 3H Tree Service, 541-294-1800. Once again, that's 541-294-1800. 3H Tree Service. They can take care of all of those problem trees for you. They remove them, leave you a beautiful view, and they do it with surgical precision, and then they clean up after themselves, and they do it at a really good price. I would highly recommend it. Definitely. Very good stuff going on at 3H Tree Service. And like I said, here, let me see. I just played their video. I might as well show you. Look, this is a good thing 3H Tree Service does in the community. Yeah, that's Matt. He was out there clearing 101. I think that was 101. So, when you have those rainstorms and those windstorms that kick up, 3H Tree Service is out there, their own volition. They're not making any money on this, and they've been taking out those trees off the highways, making sure you and your family can travel down the freeway without hitting any of those huge logs that are coming down on us. 3H Tree Service, more than just a company, of family who loves our county. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. You know who else who loves our county? Tim and Shanna from Tom and Gigs, the owners of Tom and Gigs. They're really kick-ass. They were at the dinner as well. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you, Tim, for showing up. We really appreciate it. If you want to go get your car serviced, you need your car service. Maybe you need to find out if your car's travel worthy. Is your car travel worthy? I'll tell you what, I wish I would have gone to them a couple of weeks ago because I found out my car wasn't travel worthy. I had a flat tire on the way to Coos Bay the other day, and because it's front wheel drive and those tires, today those tires, the cars are already low on the ground. I couldn't even feel the flat tire in the back. By the time I realized I had a flat tire and I was pulling into the gas station, the rim was smoking at that point. The actual rim was smoking. So but I have to give kudos to those people. They really took care of me. But I should have gone to Tom and Giggs first to find out if my car was actually travel worthy. And you can find out more about Tom and Giggs at 541-888-4660. Once again, that's Tom and Giggs at 541-888-4660. They're at 135 South Shoneman Street in Coos Bay. That's in the Empire neighborhood, right behind the car wash. And they do more than just fix your car, take care of your mufflers, your struts, your shocks, your alignment. They can do lift kits. They got performance accessories, and the really cool thing is they're the largest distributor on the southwest of Southwest Oregon of remote control cars. They've also got drones. Look at some of these remote control cars. They got remote control boats, folks. Really cool stuff. This is all over at Tom and Giggs. And if you need any accessories or parts for any of these RC cars, or if you have an RC car and you need an accessory, Tom and Giggs is the place to go. Yes, they are. And remember, they do sell tannerite, but you have to be 18 years or older to purchase tannerite. And you'll be asked to show an ID. That's just the way it goes, folks. And of course, Herbal Choices. Jim and Rosalina Deathridge, they were at the dinner. They really incredible folks over there as well, over at Herbal Choices. Been a sponsor of mine for probably over 7 years, good friends of mine, and they're doing a bang-up job. If you want to find out more about Herbal Choices, go to the herbalchoices.com website. And remember, you have to be over 21 to purchase Herbal Choices products. And let me tell you, it's funny, to buy the tannerite, you have to be 18 or over, but to buy the pot, you have to be 21 or over. I don't know who makes these rules, but I don't know if that's the proper way of doing things, but we'll go along with it. Herbal Choices, and they do have 5 stores. They have one in Charleston, one in Coos Bay, one in Bandon, one in Reedsport, and one in North Bend. Really good people over there at Herbal Choices. And of course, Oregon Firearms Federation. We had that gun bill today. I actually gave testimony on that gun bill today. It was Kevin sent out a notice last night saying that the testimony part of the bill wasn't up on their website, on the Oli's website. And then today he sent out one saying, "Oh, it's up now. Quickly go there and testify against this gun bill." And I forget the number of the gun bill. I was going to go over it, but we've gone way too far past that. But they did talk about a gun bill today that would replace Measure 114 and put in all those bad new regulations in place. And of course, Oregon Firearms, not only are they notifying us about it, but they're fighting against it. And they've been fighting against all the bad gun laws in Oregon for a long time. OregonFirearms.org. And they're not my sponsors, but I like everyone to know about Bandon Gun Club. You can find out more at bandongunclub.org. Or if you need to sight in your scope on your rifle, try Tioga Sports Park at tiogasportspark.org. They are a volunteer organization. So if you would like to volunteer to help people to learn how to better use their firearms, this would be the organization to look into. Once again, they're not my sponsors, but I like people who use firearms to know how to use them. Yes, that's important. Coos County Neighborhood Watch. This is a Facebook group, but they're a real group. And there are people right now, I don't even know who they are or where they are, but right now in Coos County, there are people patrolling the county to make sure we're safer here. And when they find criminals, they will tell you all about it on the Coos County Neighborhood Watch. So I highly recommend you go over there. If you live in Coos County, because if you don't live here in Coos County, there's no reason to be in Coos County Neighborhood Watch. They probably won't even take you. You have to pretty much live in Coos County to be part of the Neighborhood Watch. I don't know. You argue with the admins, but if you do live in the county, you want to be in this group because they will tell you about the crimes happening before the police are even called. It's an incredible group that they have there. Coos County Citizen Council. This is Chris Castleman's group. We're all part of this. we intermingle with this stuff. We're all associates. But the Coos County Citizen Council, I don't know if they're going to be doing a podcast this Wednesday, but they are a good group to follow if you want to find out what's happening in the county, in the area, and those good things. I want to thank you all for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I want to thank Rod Taylor and Chris Gasselman for coming on the show. Time again. Yep, it's 5. I've gone on for 2 hours and 24 minutes. I think it's time to go. I want to thank you all for joining in. And until next time, folks, you know what I always say? Carry on, Coos County. Carry on.